All right, all right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Dr. CC Says, the Freedom Edition. So, if you all were with me last week, you know that we are gearing up for the Free Before 40 Women's Conference. It's going to be held on Sunday, October 16th, 2022, in the Baltimore area. And y'all, we are so excited. Okay, this conference I created, it was an idea, a task, an assignment that God gave me about 2 years ago now. And so it's a conference for women of all ages, even though it is titled Free Before 40. And it's a place for women to come and learn and share and network and connect and talk about all things freedom, authenticity, health, wellness, all the things that we need to live a happy, healthy, and whole life. And so, like I tell y'all all the time, the idea for this conference is that I want everyone to be as free as possible as soon as possible. Yeah, so we can walk out our purpose. Okay. So, on Dr. CC Says, in honor of the Free Before 40 conference, we have special guests, y'all. I am so excited. We are going to have people on to talk about their journey to freedom. And tonight, we have our very first special guest, my friend, my next level sister, Dr. Sherlonda Adkins. Hey, sis.
Hey, hey, hey. So good to see you. Happy to be
There we
here.
go. Yes, we are happy to have you. And so y'all know now, look, this is our first night. We are doing StreamYard. We are streaming to Facebook. We are also streaming to LinkedIn. So y'all, we being real fancy tonight, okay? But we are still doing what we usually do on Dr. CC Says. We want you to drop hey in the chat. I see I already got somebody saying hello. Hey, sis. I see you on. And I'm gonna talk about you in a minute too, Tasha. But y'all drop hey in the chat so I know you here. Drop questions for me or for Dr. Shalonda. Drop comments. Y'all, we still want this to be very interactive. Okay. So, as excited as I am to jump into this conversation, I have to introduce my sis fully and appropriately. Okay. So, Dr. Atkins is a motivational speaker, success coach, a national board certified physician assistant, entrepreneur, world traveler, philanthropist, and dreamer. Y'all, that dreamer part is real important, okay? She has spent the last 24 years serving a socioeconomically and ethically diverse population of patients, clients, students, and audiences. Now, y'all heard me say 24 years, and I'm like, 24 where? She must have started when she was 10, okay? Because sis looks good, all right? Dr. Atkins is known for her ability to deliver engaging motivational messages with wit and style, geared primarily towards people who find themselves feeling stuck when their current goals, their career aspirations, their interests, or even their relationships shift and they no longer represent who they are. And so, y'all, I want to stop for a minute. So, Sis has done an awesome job of branding herself and branding her message. So we all know her as the person, the doctor to help you become unstuck. And so when we are talking to our next level sisters or to our speaking coach, people always say, "Oh, I heard someone talking about being stuck, or I heard someone talking about ways that you can become unstuck." And we're all like, "But that's what Doc do. Like that's Dr. Shalonda. That's what she does." So she has done an awesome job of branding herself. And y'all, I know she's gonna tell you all about that. So I will let you get there. But Dr. Atkins is the owner and founder of Psych My Way. It is South Carolina's first PA owned outpatient telepsychiatry practice, which means that she offers medical treatment to patients who suffer from mental illness, such as depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder. She is also one of the few psychiatric providers treating patients in the US Virgin Islands. And I hope she tells us a little bit about that because that's real cool. And so Dr. Atkins earned her Doctor of Medical Science from Rocky Mountain University of Health Professions, a Master of Science in Physician Assistant Studies from the Medical University of South Carolina, a Master's in Public Administration from the University of South Carolina and College of Charleston, and a Bachelor of Arts in Communications from the College of Charleston. So basically, she's doing the thing and she has been doing the thing for a long time. Okay. Dr. Atkins is married to her college sweetheart, the Reverend Randy Atkins Jr., and they have three amazing children. Her hobbies include listening to music, amateur photography, dancing, and I can attest to the dancing, and travel for missions and pleasure. Y'all, she has been to 23 countries and she is still adding some more. So you all have heard a lot of the accolades, not all of them, but you get the picture, right? She is well accomplished and she is out here living a free life. And that is what I wanted her to come and talk to us about tonight. So, sis, before we jump into this conversation, anything else you want to add?
No, you that was great. That was great.
Okay. All right. All right. So y'all, we gonna jump in. I'm looking over here. Hey Kevin. Hey Bri. And Tasha, yes, ma'am. You know we like fancy. Yes. Real quick, sis. We're talking about freedom. So my sister Tasha, that's on here, is actually at the Woman Thou Art Loose conference in Atlanta right now. But she, yes, so she is learning about being free right now. But as always, she finds her way onto my live to support me, and I appreciate that. So
Yes.
yeah. Hey Nikki. Yes, Nikki on here too. I don't know if you can see the comment.
I can't see the
So
comment.
you can
Oh,
see,
wait a minute.
okay.
Okay, I
So
see
I
it now.
will call you.
Yes.
You got it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So we jumping in, y'all. So Doc, what does freedom mean to you?
Easy
What
answer.
represents freedom?
For me, the easy answer is no restrictions. No restrictions, having the
Yeah.
freedom to do what I want. And I'm talking, like work when I want, how I want, with no restrictions on my creativity. And I always joke and tell people that, retirement, I used to hear the word retire, when I turn 65, I'm going to retire, I'm going to retire. And I started thinking, like, so what's the big deal about retirement? And so a lot of people associate
Mhm.
freedom with retirement. I read a book several years ago. It was probably about 12 years ago, and it was called The 4 Hour Work Week. And in that book, the author, he talks about
Mhm.
the same thing. Why wait until this retirement,
Mhm.
this elusive goal of retiring? We don't know. We don't know if we're going to make it, first of all. And if we make it to that age, are
Mm.
we still going to be healthy? We don't know those things. So I started thinking. So he was talking about living like you're retired now. And that just resonated with me. I didn't quite understand what it all meant then, but having the freedom that I guess, that you get when you're 65 and older, how about we bring that freedom here? No
Mhm.
restrictions. So I don't ever plan on retiring. I never plan on retiring
Mm.
as
'Cause
long
you.
as God gives me the health, the strength, and the knowledge to keep
Mhm.
sharing. Because if I were just to sit
Mhm.
on a chair, on a rocking chair on a porch somewhere, just rocking away and not sharing my knowledge, not learning new things and giving it
That
out,
wouldn't
just
be
just
you.
go ahead and
Mm-mm.
bury me. So
Yeah,
freedom
that
to
would not
me
be
is
you.
able to do what you want, how you want, affect the people that you want to affect without having chains and restrictions and people telling you can't do this,
Yeah.
how to do it. That's my simple definition of freedom.
Listen, I love that. I love that. That no restrictions, but tying that to you doing what it is that God has called you to do. Because that's what it is, right? Like when
Hmm.
we're doing what God has called us to do, we don't have that weight of, oh, I got to go do my job. Oh, here's one more day. It's a Monday, it's a
Yes.
Tuesday. We don't have to have all of that. And I was talking to my brother earlier today, and he said he told my niece, who's in her first year of college, she was asking about what major. And so for the longest, she's wanted to be like an anesthesiologist or something like that, right? And so she was like, oh, but I might want to do like sports management and business. And she's a runner, right? So like that makes sense. And he said, listen, whatever you do, make sure you love it and you will never
Mm,
work a day in your life. Right.
mm.
And that's the same as what you're saying, right? Like when we take restrictions off, when we do what it is that we love doing, the stuff that God has called us to do, you can work right up until you leave here. And it
Exactly.
won't, it won't feel like work. Yeah.
And that's a perfect, that example that you gave is perfect, because she's saying, well, I might want to do this, I might want to do that. When I graduated from high school a long time ago, it was like pick one. You pick
Mm,
one thing, you go to
mm,
school for that one thing, and that's what you
mm.
become. And then you do that thing until you retire. There's that word
You
again.
retire.
And so for
Mhm.
a long time, I was thinking something was wrong with me, because
Mm,
when my first job out of college was with the Fortune 500 insurance company. I had gotten an internship during my junior year of college.
mhm.
And first of all, let me tell you about how I got that internship. It was one of those things where I was like, you know what? I need some money. I'm a broke college student
Listen,
and I need a
yes.
job. And so I went to career services, and they had the bulletin board, and they had a
Mhm,
flyer on there, and it was saying that this company was going to be on campus recruiting students for this internship, and it
mhm.
was paid, keyword paid internship.
Paid.
So it wasn't
Right.
like I was so interested in working for an insurance company, but I was interested in working for a company that would pay me. So I just kind of, went in, filled out the paperwork, and then they said it was going to be a test required. So I showed up
Mm,
for the test. And when I showed up, there was a room full of students
mhm,
there to take this test. And so fast forward, when I got the call saying that I'd gotten the internship, I was thinking like, oh, so I was one of the ones that was selected. But come to find out, there was only one. They only
mm,
selected one student. I was like,
mm.
oh, okay. So then, I kind of stood up a little bit
Good.
straighter. I was like, all
But
right,
of course,
all right.
it was
But
you.
of course
Yes.
it was me. So I went into this internship, and first experience in a corporate environment with full grown people with schedules and kids, and they're managing their times, and they took me under their wings, and I learned a lot. So when I got ready to graduate, they said, if you want to work here, we'll extend the offer to you. And I was like,
Mhm,
awesome. So here I am, I'm unstuck, because
mm,
I have a full corporate job, fresh out of college, making
mm.
decent money, even drive a company car when I have to, do stuff with work during the day. So it's cool, unstuck,
Look
right?
so fancy. So you
Well,
fancy.
so yeah, so I thought,
Mhm,
and I thought this is going to be my career for the rest of my life. I'm good.
mhm,
And then we had our first child. And we had
mm,
our first child, and I wasn't ready to put her in daycare. So I went to my boss, and
mm.
remember, this is way before we're talking about working remotely and everything.
Right.
We actually had just gotten these new things called laptops. Before we were working with a desktop, we got these laptops, and I went to my boss and I said, I have an idea. What if I could work from home? I could still do my job. I could take my laptop home, and I could work a few days a week and then come into the office, and that would help us with not having to put our child in daycare. I
Mhm,
thought it was a great idea. He was like, no. Okay,
mm,
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So no. So here I am, like just feeling stuck. And
mm.
then also wondering, like, what's wrong with me? I should have this job and be extremely happy about it.
Wow.
Other grown people would love to have this job. And
Right.
here I am, I have it, but I'm feeling stuck. So that was my first clue, Dr.
Mhm,
CC, that it was going to be a long road for me trying to figure out to navigate
mhm.
how to work in terms of schedule, work life balance, doing stuff that I really love and not being stuck. So that's how it started for me. So going back to what you said about your brother telling your niece
Yeah.
that whatever it is that she wants to do, to let that passion drive her instead of, what society tells us is
Right.
successful. That is just like golden advice.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that she's getting that now, right?
Hmm.
So going back to what we're saying about the conference, we want people to be as free as possible, as soon as possible.
Yes.
I would love for her to know now, like what I didn't know, like what I now know. I would love for her to have that where she is at 18
Yes.
and be able to walk this journey right to 40 and have all that knowledge and have all that boldness and be
That's
able,
oh my God, you said the word, but I was thinking, I
yep,
was like boldness,
yep.
confidence, being sure in what you're it's a
It's
whole
different.
different way of moving about life when you're
Yes,
confident in what you're doing, knowing that what
yes,
you're doing is in alignment with who God placed you on this earth to be.
yes, yes,
Absolutely.
and that there's nothing wrong with you. So, I
Hmm.
heard you say that like you were wondering what was wrong with you. Nothing. There was absolutely nothing wrong with you, right? You were destined to do something greater. You
Mm-hmm.
weren't destined to be there. You weren't destined, and nothing wrong with insurance. And there are plenty of people that sell insurance and do all of that, and they love it, and that's awesome. You were destined to do something else. You were created to do something else.
Yes.
And
And you know what? There was a
mhm,
clue. There was a
yep,
clue too. While I was working there, I noticed that I had an opportunity to go out to some career fairs and stand behind the table and talk to people as they were coming up. And something about that, I didn't recognize it then, but there was
mhm,
something about that that just kind of like, ooh, like leaping in my soul. I was
uh-huh,
excited about it. And then I found out that they had a speakers bureau where they
mhm,
had different company representatives go out into the community, whether it was a job fair or talking to students in college or high school or whatever, just speaking on topics. And I got really interested in that and expressed my interest. And so they let me start doing some things in that area. I went out to
mhm.
high school and spoke to students about the importance of having insurance. I also had an opportunity to do some training and bring it back to my office and do
Mm,
train the trainer. And so I didn't realize it then, but that was like my passion
uh-huh.
showing itself. It was, and I ended up liking that more than my actual
Mhm.
job of
See,
being a
because
claims adjuster. Yeah,
right,
that felt
'cause
like
that's
that
what
work, that job.
'cause that was authentic to you, right? And
Mhm.
so in case y'all didn't catch it, that was a nugget, right, that she just dropped. So listen, your passion. When you are walking in alignment, when you are doing the things that God would have for you to do, you feel it. You can feel that passion. You have a desire to do that. And so what's the book? The Big Leap, right? The Big Leap. So I actually learned about it from Kev on stage. You know, we were
Mhm.
talking about him a few minutes ago. And so I have this like book club with some friends, and we read it, and he snatched all our edges with the Big Leap. But part of it was talking about your zone of genius.
Mhm.
And that's when you're in this area where you are doing these things that are, it's your passion, it's also the thing that you are called to do. You don't get tired in the same way, right? Now, you still have to rest, we
Yes.
still have to take care of ourselves, but you actually feel rejuvenated. You actually feel excited. You feel, like a fire kind of shut up in you, right? When
Mhm.
you are doing the things that you are supposed to be doing. And so for you, you were walking in alignment then and didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it. And you know the funny thing is, Dr. CC, for the longest, when we talk about like gifts,
Mhm.
talents, that's innate that God placed in us, for the longest, I did not know. Seriously, I did not know what my gift was because
Mm,
I associated gifts with more tangible things like people who could sing really well or paint really well or play an instrument
mhm.
really well. And so I'm looking in church and I'm like, I mean, I sing on the choir, but I'm not like, I'm not like a lead singer
The
type person.
soloist.
And,
Mhm.
I can, draw a little bit, but don't ask me to animate anything. So I was just looking through and noticing all the things that I'm not like that good at. So I even
Mm,
told my husband, I was like, I think that my gift is that I can do a little bit of everything. And he was like, really? You don't see what your gift is? And I was like, no, like I
mm,
really don't. He said, you don't notice how people are always calling you, asking you for advice.
mhm,
You don't
mhm,
notice that? And I was like, I mean, but everybody do that. We all call people. And he was like, mm-mm. He was like,
mm,
no. He said, it
mm,
doesn't matter. He was like, people who are older than you, people who are younger than you, people you've
mhm.
known for a long time, people you've just met. And I started thinking like, well, is that a gift? And later
Absolutely.
on, we took a
Mhm.
spiritual gifts test in Bible study. And at the top of my list, it
Hmm.
was my gift, exhortation.
Yep.
And then it just makes sense because when I look back over my life and I look at the golden thread that's interwoven into the fabric of who I am, girl, I've been doing
Mm.
that since I was on the playground in
Listen,
elementary school.
since you've been here, right? But
Yes,
isn't it
yes,
amazing? We take for granted our gifts sometimes, right? Like we take for granted that other everybody does that. Oh, that's not
right,
special.
right.
Right? That's what everybody do. People, and one of my favorite affirmations, no one can do what I do the way I do it. And that's my
That's
magic,
right.
right? That's my magic. And we a lot of times, because it comes effortlessly for us, we
Hmm.
think that other people can do it the same way, but they really can't. And that's why we have to understand what our gifts are and start to walk in them, start to be free, take those restrictions off so that we can bless the people.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and you kind of already answered my second question, right? So, like, when did you kind of figure out that you weren't as free as you wanted to be? But how would you say your view of freedom has changed across this journey?
Yeah, so I think it's changed across the journey based on my lifestyle needs. And one example I can just give you that's kind of funny is when I first got married. Before we had kids, I had this little sports car. It was a Chrysler Sebring. I don't even think they still make those, but it was a two door, had the sunroof. We cruised in the Chrysler. And then
Uh,
when we had our first child, I was like, okay, it's going to be difficult, but this two door, always having to flip the seat up, put the car seat in.
mhm,
So our
mhm.
needs shifted. So then
Yep.
we got an SUV, a 5-passenger SUV. That worked well with child one, child two. But then when child three came along, I was like, there's just not enough space for a car seat, two booster seats. So then we had to get an SUV that had a third row. So we had the SUV with the third row, and it was great for
Mm,
family trips. And then the kids started growing up, and I noticed like
love it.
they're
Yep.
not all with us anymore. So I'm driving this big SUV, might have one, in the back, but where are
Mhm.
the rest of them? So then I was like, okay, let's downsize. So then I start coming back down to the SUV that's the 5-passenger. And now my next step was I was like, okay, we're down to the last child. I'm getting another sports car, but my husband beat me to it. So, but we do have the sports car. So sometimes if I want to
Mhm.
jump in the car, the sports car, the two door. And so I use that as just an example of
Mhm.
how our needs changed. There was an
Yep.
evolution. And so with me, I talk about freedom in a lot of different areas. So freedom,
Mhm.
emotionally, like a lot of
Right.
things that we've carried with us. And you're a clinical psychologist, so you work with your patients a lot with that.
Mhm.
And then I talk about financial freedom, but mostly I talk about career freedom.
Mhm.
So that has evolved for me over the years, because at one time it would be, oh, if I could just get a job, I could work from home back in the day when I first
Mhm.
had my child, like everything would just be peachy and creamy, right? But as the pandemic taught us that having a job that you work from home is not the holy grail,
Right.
because there's a lot of other
They
factors
come.
that come along with
Yep.
that. Working at
Yep.
home, sometimes isolation, and sometimes not even taking care of yourself as much
Yep.
as you would have if you're working outside of the
Right.
home.
Relaxing those
Um,
boundaries. Yep.
yeah, yeah. And so for me, and I want to share this, and I hope that everybody who's listening will listen to what I'm saying, because there is power in writing down your goals.
Yes.
Writing down your goals. And at first I was like, it's just, you just write them down as hokey pokey. But no, there's a whole neurobiological process that occurs. See those pictures behind me with the brain? There's something that happens
Mhm.
in your brain when you write down goals, when you speak them out loud, affirmations,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
stored in your hippocampus. So when you're making decisions on a daily basis, we make decisions all the time that we're not necessarily even processing. We just make those decisions. But when you have this information stored, and you have an opportunity to make a choice, your brain is doing some background work, and it's pulling and guiding you in a direction of where you already said you wanted to go, even if you're not thinking about it. So journaling, I've always
Mhm.
journaled, always had a journal. When I was in PA school during my didactic year, I was thinking, I already know what it feels like to be stuck, and
Mm.
feeling stuck
Yeah.
sucks. It really does.
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and write down my goals in terms of what an ideal job looks like for me at this time. And
Mhm.
seriously, I opened up my journal and I started writing. You want to know what I wrote?
What?
I'm gonna tell you, because I'm sharing it now, but when I wrote
Mhm.
these things down, I did not share these with anybody, because to me, even to me, the author of the goals, they sounded lofty.
Mhm.
They sounded like I was being low key diva. But again, like I said, I
I
had
love it.
already understood what it was like to be stuck. So I wrote down in my journal that I want to work part-time hours
Mm.
with
Big
full-time
time.
pay.
Come on, sis.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
I also wrote down that I wanted to be close to home, because at the time I had 3 children. And if
Mhm.
something went down at school or if somebody was sick, I wanted to feel like mom was still able to get there. I also wrote down that I did not want to work nights or weekends. And then my little bonus, like what, because I'm a little extra, so I can't just write down the goals. I'm gonna do a bonus goal.
Right.
My bonus
Right.
goal was, when I get more experience under my belt, I wanted to be able to travel, to do work and travel, like travel
Mm,
somewhere and work. So these were goals that I actually wrote down. And again, I didn't share them with anybody because here I am in this program that's producing healthcare providers to go out and work. I'm saying, but what if I don't want to work full time like that? What if my life is not
mhm,
set up like that?
mhm.
But y'all, when I tell you that when I graduated, those first three goals, the travel part is here now. It wasn't there
Right.
yet. It was on the way. But those first three goals, working part-time hours, full-time pay. When I say working close to home, I was working in two practices. One was 5 minutes out the front of my
Mm,
neighborhood. The other one was 7 minutes out the back of my neighborhood.
mm.
No nights, no weekends, and I created my own schedule.
See, because you wrote it down, and like you
Wrote it
said,
down.
right, writing it down. And we got a couple of questions that I want you to answer for them. I'm gonna come to it in 1 second, Shatira. I see you, but what you said about the brain, right? So writing
Hmm.
it down that also helps guide our feet right towards what we're supposed to be doing. It helps to order our steps, and that's why
Hmm.
it's so important for us to stay in alignment with God. Because if God gives you the thoughts, He gives you the desire, you're writing it down, he's then guiding you and giving you the strength to move in that direction. Right.
Yes.
So then we just in alignment all over the place. I love it.
In
I love it.
alignment all over and all over the place. So that is huge. And that's one of the, questions when I'm working with my coaching clients and we're
Mhm.
talking about setting up goals. That's one of the first things we do. What are your goals? Because without goals, what are we working towards?
Right. What do
We're
we have
moving
kind of sense for
aimlessly
us?
and just kind of like, oh,
Yep.
it is what it is. We'll just let it be. That's not me.
Yeah.
And
Right.
most
Right.
successful people I know,
That's
that's
not
not them
them.
either.
That's
Right.
not them. So Shatira asked, yes, should we write them every day? So going back to talking about the goals, should we write them every day or write them and read them every day?
So I think that's personal. I don't write my goals every day, but I have them in visible places. So I have my goals on my phone. I also have them written because there's something about that hand connection to putting it on
Mhm.
paper as well, reinforcing. So not just saying them, but also writing them. So research has actually shown that when you write your goals down, that you're more likely to accomplish them. If you say your goals, if you just have them in your head, you're more likely to accomplish them than, not having them at all, but actually writing them down, transcribing
Mhm.
them, and even drawing little. So Shatira, even drawing little pictures, color coding it. That helps too with the encoding process. It's just like when you were in school. If you missed a day of school and you ask your friends, can you borrow their notes? And you look at their notes and you're like, what's this little squiggly man over here? And what's this off in the, it's something
Right.
they understood and it helps them remember because they wrote it in a way that made sense to
To
them.
them.
It may not make
Mhm.
sense to you, but when they take the test, they're probably going to do extremely well because they took the notes based on how their brain processes information. So writing it down, yes. As far as writing it down every day, um, I think that's more a personal preference. If you're not used to writing goals, if this is new to you, I would say yes, write them as often as you can just
Yeah.
to get into the habit of writing goals and then saying them out loud. Yes. And
Yeah.
we learned something in our coaching program with Dr. Guillory with saying them out loud, saying them in such a way that it's an affirmation.
Yep.
So, for example, one of my goals that I had written down was that I want to work part-time hours with full-time pay. So I can change that to an affirmation that says, I, Sherlonda, work part-time hours and enjoy full-time pay. So that's an example of
Yeah.
how you can change that goal into an affirmation. And we have a lot of power in what we
Come
speak.
on.
There's
Yep.
power
In the
in
tongue.
our
Yeah.
tongue. So when you speak it and you are putting it out there in the atmosphere, something about the spoken word just sounds so real. And most of the time, like if you think about it, if somebody says something and they're telling a lie, like you just know it's a lie, still there's a part of your brain that wants to believe it because they said it.
Right.
Because if you said it, it's something that you should be able to believe, right? So you think it, you got your goals, write
Mhm.
them down, and then speak. And so I definitely believe that three punch combination,
Right.
It's
It'll
powerful.
get you, yeah, to get you where you need to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Doc, part of what you said about the making it a habit, right? So if we're not used to doing something, like research tells us, it takes us about 30 days, right, for something to become a habit. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like you said, writing something as much as possible, just getting into the habit of doing that. And for me, another part is being intentional about it. So if I'm gonna write down my goals, or if I'm gonna go back and review my goals every day, or if I'm doing my affirmations, or just doing my mindset work in general, right? I have to be intentional about that time. I have to make sure I have time. I have to have all my tools and resources and everything I need. And then I have to make space for that. And so just that setting that intention is so important. And it has been something that has been so amazing for me this year. Just being intentional about stuff.
And you are, and I love it. And you
Yeah.
are. Look, I'm gonna tell. So she said all this stuff about me, but she's been a role model for me.
Mhm.
So keep being intentional. The people watching,
Yeah,
me too.
and right, and thank you, sis. Thank you. I tell folks, and we always talk about this, how people, send us messages and they say things, and just this weekend, I was somewhere and I'm, having a good time, and somebody said, "Yeah, so I saw your live and da 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 da." And I said, "You watch my live?" They was like, "Yeah, yeah, like I follow you on YouTube." I said, "You follow me on YouTube?" Like we don't always see all of that, but if
Hmm.
we just keep doing what God told us to do,
Yes.
right? Just keep walking, keep making sure that we don't have those restrictions. I love that that's your definition for being free, right? Because it's really similar to the definition that I gave last week, which was having options, right? So if we
Yes.
don't have restrictions, we have options. And so
Yes.
when we utilize those options, when we're being intentional, when we're doing all this good work that we're doing, it blesses us, but it also blesses other folks.
Hmm.
And that's
Absolutely.
humbling. Yeah, that's I'm just appreciative to God that He has given us the assignments that He's given us.
Yes, and that we decided to take up these assignments because they're not always
Yeah,
easy. It's
that's
not.
true.
It's not always easy. So I'll give you a couple of more examples. But when I started thinking about starting to practice, I was met with some resistance. The first person that I went to ask was, more like a mentor, and it was like, no, I don't think that'll work. You think I don't think people would want to be seen on a screen for
Hmm.
psychiatry. That's more of a personal thing. Nope. It's like, okay. And
Hmm.
then, of course, being a physician assistant. So, for those of you who don't know what a PA is, so physician assistant, so we're trained on the medical model. We go to PA school, which is a very rigorous process. The programs are about 2.5 years, 2.5 to 3 years, and straight through, no summer breaks. But we are having to learn all the body systems, from the brain, the heart, the lungs,
Mhm.
everything. And PAs practice autonomously. Each state has different rules as far as how much autonomy PAs get, but we can evaluate patients, we can diagnose patients, we can treat patients, including prescribing medications. And so saying that I'm a PA and then starting a practice, there's
Mm.
sometimes that can ruffle a little bit of feathers with some other
Mhm.
people in the medical community in terms of what PA should be or should not be allowed to do. And I
Mm.
always joke with some of my clients who are PAs, and I'll tell them, I said, sometimes, being a PA can feel like coming out of an abusive relationship where you've been told what you can do and what you can't do. And I'm all about what? Being unstuck, because there's a lot
Stuck.
of things
Yeah.
that we can do as PAs, whether it's starting your own practice, or whether it's branching out and going into academics or consulting or medical writing, or it's just a plethora of things that we can do. So yeah, I was met with some resistance, and it could have been easy for me to say, you know
Mhm.
what, it's okay,
Maybe I
it's
shouldn't.
all right.
Mhm.
Maybe I shouldn't, but
Mhm.
I saw a need. It wasn't like I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, going, "I'm so bored. I have nothing else to do. Let me just think about starting to practice." But the thing that was for me, I love to travel, so 23 countries and counting.
Mhm.
And the year prior to me starting to practice, I was out of the office a lot because I was traveling. I was living life, enjoying myself. But as an independent contractor, that means I don't have vacation time. When I'm
Mhm.
not working, when I'm not in the office seeing
Yep.
patients, I'm not generating income. So
Right.
then I start remember that dream that I wrote down, that goal. about
Mm-hmm.
being able to travel and work when I get some more
Yep.
experience. So again, I had that written down in the back, that was in the back of my mind. And so then I'm thinking, I'm traveling. Is there a way that while I'm traveling, I can
Mm-hmm.
still see patients? So that was the first thing that started kind of percolating. And then I started thinking about, this is one area of medicine where we're not touching patients. We don't have the stethoscope and we're, auscultating. We're not saying lean back, let us press on your belly. We're just really speaking, it's dialogue. I mean, there's still a physical examination when we're looking, we're looking to see if we see any, cuts, bruises, or,
Right.
shaking, or any signs, different things like that. But I was like, this could work. And now that I
Mm-hmm.
think about it, when patients don't show up for their appointments, it's not because they're just being
Yep.
non-compliant. A lot of times they're not showing up because they don't have transportation.
Right.
Or where I live in Charleston. So if it rains for more than like 2 hours straight, you better believe we're going to have flooding somewhere. So it could
Mm-hmm.
be flooding, it could be traffic, it could be lack of childcare, it could be a job schedule, it could be the students in college. So I started thinking of all these reasons. I was like, you know what? I'm going for it. And
Mm.
I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I did. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but being unstuck sometimes it's
Yeah.
not easy. It's not easy
No.
getting there.
Yeah. But it's necessary. And
Hmm.
that's what I love. It's necessary to get to that next step. And so you are already blessing people, but you're blessing so many more folks because now you're able to travel, you're able to take, your expertise, you're able to take your abilities and your resources to all these other folks that would not have had it otherwise. And that's what I love about telemedicine. We do a lot of it at the institute where I work. And like you said, when people don't show up, 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with whether or not they wanted to be there, right?
Hmm.
It has everything to do with these obstacles that get in the way. And so, if we can remove some obstacles so other people can get what they need to be happy, healthy, and whole, why not?
Yes.
Why
Yes.
not? Yeah. And I love how you said, folks said, oh, maybe not. And you were like, I'm going to go for it.
Hmm.
Right. Because we don't have to live our lives based off of the expectations of others.
That's right. Just because it hasn't been done before. And guess what? I don't know if I mentioned, but this was 2019 when I was having this conversation. What
Mhm.
happened in 2020?
Right. We all had to go virtual. Everybody.
So I said, God has a way of making us look really smart. So even though I said that was kind of like, my idea, I
Yeah.
really hands down believe that was God preparing the way, those
Yeah.
inklings, those ideas, those nudges. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he, like you said, he put it there, he gave it to you. You had it early, so you were able to go
Hmm.
ahead and have it in place so that when everything happened, you already there.
Yeah.
Right? Like you didn't, I always say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. You already
I like
ready.
that.
Yeah, you are already ready. Yes. So I hope y'all are listening. I hope y'all are taking notes. I hope y'all are getting all these nuggets. If you have any questions, do like Shatira and drop them in the chat. We will definitely answer them for you. I see we got a few other next level sisters on here. Tanika is on here. Hey, sis.
Hey, hey, T3.
Yes, yes. So now I think you've already touched on this a little bit, but I wanted them to hear this specifically. What are you doing to maintain your freedom? Because you've already established it, right? It's already kind of advanced throughout your journey. What are you doing to maintain the freedom that you have?
It's going to sound really simple, but really just connecting with God. And when I say connecting with God, being led by what I feel I should be doing.
Hmm.
It sounds really simple, but sometimes it can get complicated because
Yeah.
once, sometimes you get rolling in a certain direction, and especially if you're seeing movement, progress, and gaining momentum, it's easy to think, well, this is the direction I'm supposed to be going in. But if we pause, and that's what I spend a lot of time doing, I have now,
Mhm.
made sure that I incorporated time into my schedule so that I can pause and really just listen and take my temperature. And what I mean by that is taking the temperature of, is this making me like really excited? Like, is this something that I'm willing to wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my gosh, and write ideas now? Or am I starting to
Mhm.
feel like this is starting to feel like work?
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
kind of really using that as a gauge. And again, like this journey of being unstuck, it's gonna shift. It's
Yeah.
gonna evolve because we're not the same. At least we shouldn't be. You shouldn't be the same person
Right.
that you were 6 months ago.
Right.
My husband
Right.
has something that he always says. He says, if you're not growing, that means you're dying. So you
Mm.
should be changing. And as you change, naturally, it's expected for us to have a shift in our desires. Goals that we had written down for a long time, maybe it does change. Maybe they stick there, but maybe they do shift. Maybe
Uh-oh.
some things become more of a priority, and that's okay. And for me, I said this a little bit a few
Uh-oh,
minutes ago.
sis.
Uh oh. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Uh-oh. I lost you for a minute. Yep, I can hear you
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
earlier I mentioned something about, I started thinking like, is there something wrong with me? Because again, I had this
Mhm.
mindset that when you choose something, you stick with that thing, but not giving myself enough grace to say, no, but you change and you shift.
Yeah.
And it's okay
Yeah.
to reevaluate and to change. But I would say the
Yeah.
easiest thing is just to look inward and to pay
Mhm.
attention to your temperature and your reactions, your visceral reactions to things. If you are doing
Mhm.
something and you're just like, it's always a dread, or this is going to be work, and you start listening to yourself speaking, if it's all like negativity, pay
Mhm.
attention to it.
Yeah.
Pay
It
attention
might
to
be
it
time.
because it may be time to do something else.
Yep.
And
Yep.
being stuck, and hear me clearly with this, being stuck is not always a bad thing, because being stuck could be your soul's way of saying that
Mhm.
something is out of alignment.
Yep. Yep. I love that. I
So
love
take
that.
the time.
Yeah.
Don't be so busy. Don't be so, engaged in doing things that you don't have enough time to listen, because God does lead us and he leads us really clearly, but it's also very easy for us to drown his voice out. We can do that
Yeah.
really easily.
Yes, I love that because it's what I tell people about emotions, right? People want to hide certain emotions. Kids somehow get this message that like, oh, anger is bad, so I can't be angry. And like I tell them, anger tells you something, like everything
Yes.
else, right? And that's what I just heard you say, like being stuck. That tells you something. It tells you that you may to happen. Yeah. Oh, I lost you for a minute.
Are we okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Are you there?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yep. It was just for a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you back? You can hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yes. hmm
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so sis, look, thank you so much. You have dropped all the knowledge, all the gems. You have helped us understand about being stuck, what it means to become unstuck, what it means to take off restrictions and make sure that we are living free and doing some of the awesome things that you're doing and blessing the people. And so I want you to just kind of, wrap it all up for us. Tell us this one thing you want us to take away, and then tell people how they can find you because they need to be following you if they are not already following you.
Yes. Well, first of all, it was my honor and pleasure to be here. I can't believe the time is already up. I was having such a good time. So, for those of you who are listening
I
or
know, I
catching it on
know.
the replay, are we good? You can hear me, right? Are you good?
Uh-huh, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, okay. So
Yep,
I
yep,
want
we're
you
good.
to, and this is the teacher coming out of me, the coach coming out of me, but write these questions down. These are some questions that I'm gonna leave you with. The first question is, do you feel stuck? Yes or no? And if the
Uh-oh.
answer is yes,
Wait a minute. Sis, say that one again.
do you feel stuck?
Sis, say that one again because it went out. Okay,
Okay,
do
the
you feel
first,
stuck? Okay.
do you
I'm gonna
feel
put the
stuck?
questions in
And
the chat.
okay, yeah, thank you. And if you do feel stuck, in what areas of life do you feel stuck? Is it in your career? Is it in your relationships? Is it in your finances? Is it geographically? Do you feel stuck where you're living and want to move somewhere else? So, where do you feel stuck? The second question is, because that was question like 1.8. The second question is, why do you think you're feeling stuck? What is it in life that has you where you are? And then the third question is, what does a life of being unstuck look like for you? And that's important for you to be able to visualize that, because again, you need to have something that you're working
Yeah.
towards. So those are the questions. That's where it starts, and really doing soul searching. And I understand we say that a lot, like search yourself, search your soul, but sometimes we don't know how to do that. So if you can answer those three questions, that will get you on your way. And I will say the reason why it's important to get unstuck, why you should not remain unstuck, is number one, you give up a lot of things when you're stuck. Some of the mistakes that people
Mhm.
make is not considering the cost of remaining stuck. And when I say cost, I'm not talking financial cost, although there can be some financial cost, because if you're stuck, sometimes people will spend money trying to create
Mm.
or generate this false sense of happiness, only for it to be
Yeah.
fleeting and temporary. But consider the cost,
Yeah.
consider what you're losing in relationships when you're not showing up every day,
Mm.
being
Mm.
unstuck. And also, people beat up on themselves for saying that they're feeling stuck, because like me, you're saying, what's wrong with me? You're looking at it as something that's bad when maybe it's not. That's your way of saying I
Yeah.
need to be doing something else. And then the third thing is, sometimes people just don't stop and think, what if it does work out? What if it
Mm.
works out? So that's what I would like to leave everybody with. And yes, find me. This is what I do. Again, my exhortation gift. I love
Yeah.
exercising it in the form of speaking and teaching and coaching and doing workshops, all the things. So you can find me at www.drsherlondaadkins.com. I'm on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Dr. Sherlonda Adkins. That's me.
Yep. So I put that in there. So y'all follow Dr. Sherlonda. So if you are stuck, you can learn more about how to become unstuck, and you can live this life of freedom that we're talking about. And also just so you can get some upliftment, right? So
Mhm.
I am so blessed to know Dr. Sherlonda. Like our whole group was so positive and so supportive
Mhm.
and just so amazing. Like y'all,
Yes.
these women rock in all sorts of ways. And so, follow Dr. Sherlonda so you can get the information, but also so you can be connected to somebody that rocks. Okay.
Thank you, sis.
Of course, sis, of course. So y'all, we went let's see how long. Y'all, we done went 47 minutes, okay? Because and look, me and her can talk, so we can go some more. But y'all know I usually try to keep Dr. CC says to about 25, 35, 45 minutes. And people always tell me, they say, you cut it off right when we be trying to take our notes and we be wanting more. So I hope y'all see y'all got more tonight, right? Y'all got 47 minutes, okay? So join us next week. We will be back for another Dr. CC Says. I am going to have another special guest talking about freedom and this journey to freedom. And also follow us with all of the posts that we're going to be making about the conference. And if you can meet us in Baltimore, come on to the conference. And I say us because Dr. Shalonda is going to be here with me, right? Because y'all, I have the type of support system. They don't just talk about it, they are about it. So she is going to be in the building for the conference for the Free Before 40, getting her freedom on with
Yes.
us. So if you all can join us, definitely do so. And we will see all of you next week, same time, same place. Y'all be safe. All right.